My name is David Larry, and I am 90 years old. I was born on the 16th of January 1936 in Fairhope, Alabama, in the United States of America. I have lived long enough to bury my parents, to watch my children grow into people I am proud of, and to lose the one person who was present for almost all of it. I am telling you this today not because I want you to feel sorry for me. I am telling you this because I have been sitting with something for a few years now. Something I cannot put down, and I think if I say it out loud, if I finally say it, maybe it will do some good for somebody younger than me. Somebody who still has time. My wife's name was Ruth. She died of pancreatic cancer. She was diagnosed, and 6 months later, she was gone. And in those last weeks, in the quiet of a hospital room that smelled like antiseptic and overcooked food, she said something to me that I have not stopped thinking about since. She said that we had spent most of our marriage being right instead of close. That is what she said. Not angry, not accusing, just honest, the way people get when they know they are running out of chances to be honest. I'm going to tell you the whole story, all of it, because I think I owe it to her. And I think I might owe it to you. I grew up in Fairhope with my father Harold and my mother, and we were not a wealthy family, but we were a steady one. My father was a man of few words and strong opinions. He worked hard, he came home, he sat at the head of the table, and he provided. That was what a man did. That was the only definition of love I saw demonstrated clearly in my childhood. You worked, you provided. You showed up in the physical sense. Whether you showed up in the emotional sense, that was never discussed, not once. I carried that understanding into my adult life. The way you carry something you have packed so many times, you stop noticing its weight. I married Ruth in 1960. I was 24 years old. She was 22. We married in the spring, and I remember the light that day. The way it came through the church windows and made everything look like a painting. Ruth wore a simple white dress. She was not a complicated woman in her presentation, but she was complex in her inner life. I would not fully understand that until much, much later, and even then, I only understood it because she was dying, and she finally let me see it. We were young. We were hopeful. We set up a small apartment, and I went to work, and she kept things running at home. Our son Michael was born in 1963, and our daughter Caroline in 1966. By the time Caroline arrived, we had settled into the rhythm that would define the next several decades of our life. I worked. Ruth managed the home, raised the children, and kept everything organized and functional. On the surface, we were doing exactly what we were supposed to do. We were a family. A real one. And I genuinely believed, that we were happy. That is the part that still gets me. Not that I was lying to myself. I was not lying. I truly believed it. When people asked how the marriage was going, I would say fine, good, solid, and I meant every word. We did not fight often. We did not have the kind of explosive arguments that other couples had. We had a stable house. We had routines that worked. We were comfortable. I thought comfort was the goal. I thought if there was no fire, that meant everything was under control. What I did not understand, what I would not understand for decades, is that the absence of conflict is not the same as the presence of connection. Those are two completely different things, and I confused them for most of my adult life. Ruth was a person who loved doing things together. Not big, expensive things, small things. She wanted to take a pottery class once and asked me to go with her. I remember her asking. I was tired that evening. I had had a long day at work, and I said I would go next time. There was no next time, of course. She went alone, made a few pieces, and eventually stopped going. The clay bowls sat on our kitchen shelf for years. I did not think about them twice. She asked me to go dancing with her more than once. I have never been a dancer, and I told her so, and she laughed and said she did not need me to be good at it. She just wanted me to come. I found a reason not to. I always found a reason. Work was demanding. The yard needed attention. I was tired in a way that I told myself was earned, the tiredness of a man doing his duty. She asked me once, maybe when the children were older and the house was quieter, if we could just sit outside in the evening and talk. Just talk. Not about bills or the kids' schedules. Just talk. I remember I said yes that night, and we did it once or twice, but it never became a habit. I let it fade. I think part of me did not know what to talk about when the conversation had no practical purpose. When there was nothing to solve or plan or decide, I did not know quite what to do with the silence between us. So I filled my time with other things and told myself Ruth understood. She was a practical woman, I told myself. She knew how the world worked. She knew what it took to keep a family afloat. But Ruth was not just a practical woman. She was a woman with a rich interior life that I rarely asked about. She read widely. She had opinions about things. She had feelings she kept mostly to herself because, over the years, she had learned that I was not always the right audience for them. She had always wanted to visit Canada. I do not know exactly when that desire began, but she mentioned it many times over the course of our marriage. She had a thing for the landscape up there, the mountains, the lakes, the particular quality of the wilderness. She had seen photographs somewhere, and it had gotten into her. She talked about going to British Columbia, to the Rockies. She would bring it up every few years casually, not demandingly, just mentioning it. I always said yes, we would get to it. One day, when the kids were grown, when work settled down, when we had saved a little more, when the timing was right. The timing was never right. And I never once stopped to ask myself why. I never stopped to ask whether making the timing right was something I had any responsibility to do. I just kept deferring, and she kept waiting, and the years kept moving, and Canada stayed on the shelf like those pottery bowls. What I understand now, what I wish to God I had understood then, is that when Ruth asked me to go dancing or take a pottery class, or sit outside and talk or travel to a place she had been dreaming about, she was not simply asking for an activity. She was asking me to care about the things she cared about. She was asking me to be curious about her world, her inner world, the things that made her feel alive. She was asking me to show up not just physically but with genuine interest in who she was. And I did not do that. Not enough. Not nearly enough. I do not think I was a bad man. I want to be clear about that. Not because I'm trying to protect my reputation, but because I think it matters for what I'm trying to say. I was not unkind to Ruth. I was not unfaithful. I did not drink too much or spend recklessly or leave her alone to struggle. By every practical measure, I was present. I was a provider. I showed up. But showing up in a room is not the same as being present in a relationship. I know that now. My father Harold died when I was 47 years old. I remember standing at his grave and feeling a grief that surprised me because my father and I were never especially close. Not close the way I wanted to be with my own children. Not close the way I told myself I would be different from him. And yet I grieved him. I think I grieved not just the man, but the possibility of something we'd never quite managed. The conversation that never happened. The moment he might have told me he was proud of me, or I might have told him what I actually thought of things. We were always too busy being steady and practical to be fully known to each other. I wonder sometimes if I became my father without noticing. Not in the harsh ways. I was softer than he was, I think, warmer in small moments, but in the essential pattern. The pattern of providing without connecting, of being there without being truly present, of assuming that loyalty and reliability were the same as intimacy. Ruth adapted to this over the years. That is the thing that breaks my heart when I let myself think about it clearly. She did not give up on me exactly, but she adjusted. She stopped asking me to come dancing. She stopped suggesting the pottery classes. She built friendships with women from her church and her reading group. Women who would sit with her and talk about books and feelings and life in the way she needed. She filled the emotional space that I had left empty with other relationships, other sources of meaning. And I thought that was fine. I actually thought, that was how a long marriage worked. People had their own lives. They gave each other space. You did not have to be in each other's pockets every minute. A marriage could be two people living comfortably under the same roof, raising children, managing a household, moving through life as a team, without needing to be each other's everything. That is what I told myself. What I did not see, what I refused to see maybe, was that we had stopped being emotionally present to each other. That we had become something close to polite strangers who shared a bed and a last name and a history. We were not unhappy exactly, but we were not fully alive to each other either. And I did not notice. That is the honest answer. I did not notice because I was not looking. I was busy. I was tired. I was getting older and settling deeper into my routines, and the comfortable numbness of a long marriage felt like peace when it was actually something else. It was only when Ruth got sick that I finally started looking. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday, pancreatic cancer. The doctor explained what that meant in terms of timelines and options, and Ruth listened to him with her hands folded in her lap and asked 2 or 3 very precise, practical questions, and then went quiet. On the drive home, she looked out the window and said, "Well, I suppose we had better make some decisions." That was Ruth. Practical even at the edge of everything. But in the months that followed, something shifted between us. The illness forced us into a different kind of proximity. She needed help, and I gave it. And in giving it, I was suddenly present in her daily life, in a way I had not been in years. I was with her at appointments. I was with her in the mornings when she was not feeling well. I was with her in the evenings when she could not sleep. And she started talking to me differently. I do not know if she had simply decided that there was no more time to waste on careful navigation, or if the illness had stripped away some of the protective layers she had built up over the years. But she started telling me things about what she had felt during our marriage, about the loneliness she had carried quietly for a long time, about dreams she had given up on so gradually that she had barely noticed them leaving. She told me about Canada. She told me she had stopped mentioning it not because she had stopped wanting to go, but because she had understood that I was never going to take it seriously, and it hurt less not to want it out loud. I sat next to her bed and listened and did not say very much. What was there to say? I could not argue. I could not fix it. I could only listen, finally, in the way she had been asking me to listen for decades. And then came the day. It was close to the end. She was very weak when she looked at me and said those words. That we had spent most of our life being right instead of close. That we had gotten things right. The house, the children, the bills, the practical architecture of a life. But somewhere in all of that rightness, we had lost the closeness. The real closeness. The kind where you know what the other person carries inside, and you carry some of it with them. I held her hand and I said, "Ruth, I am sorry." And she squeezed my hand and closed her eyes and said, "I know you are." She died 11 days later. After the funeral, after the children went home and the house was quiet again, in a way that was nothing like the comfortable quiet I had known before, I found her journal. I did not know she had kept one. I should not have been surprised, and in some ways I was not. Ruth had always been a writer in small ways, notes, letters, careful lists. But a journal. I held it for a long time before I opened it. What I read inside did not make me feel like a monster. I want to say that because I think some people expect grief to work that way. That you find the hidden record of someone's pain and you are destroyed by guilt and shame. It was not like that. What I felt was something quieter, and in some ways, harder. I felt grief for her, for the version of her that had written these pages in private, because there was nowhere else to put these feelings. She wrote about the pottery class. She wrote about waiting for me to suggest we do something together and the slow giving up of that waiting. She wrote about how much she had loved the women in her reading group and how she was grateful for them, but also aware that she had needed those friendships partly because something was missing at home. She wrote in one entry that she still loved me. That was clear. She was not writing out of bitterness. She was writing out of a kind of quiet sorrow, the sorrow of a person who had wanted more from a life that was otherwise perfectly good. That line has stayed with me. A life that was otherwise perfectly good. That is what we had. A life that was perfectly good and not quite fully lived together. There is no fixing that now. I know that. I am not telling you this story because I found a way to make peace and want to share the secret. I have not fully made peace. Some mornings I wake up and I lie in the bed we shared for 63 years, and I feel the weight of all those small refusals. All the no thank yous, and the maybe next times, and the I'm tired todays. They add up. They add up to something real and heavy, and it sits on me still. But I also know that telling this story is the one useful thing left that I can do with it. So here is what I know, not as advice, just as what I know. Relationships do not usually fall apart in one dramatic moment. They erode, slowly, quietly, in the everyday accumulation of small choices that seem harmless at the time. The night you stay on the couch instead of asking your partner how their day really went. The trip you keep postponing. The hobby they mention 3 times before they stop mentioning it. The conversation that would have required you to put down what you were doing and actually be curious about another person, and you did not do it. These things seem small. They are small individually, but over years and decades, they become the shape of a relationship. They become the distance. Being physically present in a home is not the same as being emotionally present in a marriage. I was in that house. I was at the dinner table. I was there in the practical sense, reliably and consistently. And I thought that was the thing. I thought that was love. But Ruth did not need me to be in the room. She needed me to be interested in her. Genuinely interested. Not out of obligation or routine, but because she was a person worth being curious about. A person with a rich interior life who had chosen to build a life with me, and who deserved, at minimum, to be seen in that life. I did not see her. Not fully. And by the time I started to, we were running out of time. I think about my father Harold sometimes, and I wonder if his father was the same way, and his father before him. Men who were taught that love was demonstrated through labor and steadiness, and who never learned that it also required presence of a different kind. The kind that cannot be quantified or pointed to. The kind that lives in the quiet, sustained attention you pay to another human being. I do not blame my father. He did what he knew. I did what I knew. But knowing that does not make the outcome any lighter to carry. Michael and Caroline and my son and my daughter, they are good people. They love their mother deeply and they love me, and I am grateful for them every day. They have their own families now, their own children and grandchildren, and I see them often. I have 4 great-grandchildren. When they come to visit, the house feels alive in a way it does not when I am here alone. And I watch them, especially the younger couples, the ones still in the middle of building something. And I think about what I would say if I could say anything. I would not lecture. I am 90 years old, and I have no interest in lecturing anyone. But I would say this: whatever you are building with the person you chose, pay attention to it. Not just to whether it is functioning, to how it feels, to whether the person beside you feels known by you. Ask them things. Not just the logistics of the day, but the real things. What they dream about. What they are afraid of. What they wish were different. What they carry that they have not told you about. And when they ask you to go dancing, go, even if you are tired. Even if you are not a dancer. Go because she asked you. Go because the asking means something, And the refusing will mean something too, years from now, in a way neither of you can fully see yet. Do not wait for the timing to be right. I waited my whole married life for the timing to be right, and the timing was never right because I never made it right. Canada was always out there, always possible. And then one day, it was not possible anymore. And the word Canada became something I could not say out loud without feeling it in my chest. Ruth is gone. The pottery bowls are still on the shelf. I look at them sometimes. I am 90 years old. I have more behind me than ahead, and that is just the simple arithmetic of being alive as long as I have been. I do not say that to be dramatic. I say it because it is true, and because the truth of it changes how you hear things, or it should. Now, I want to say something to the younger people watching this. Not because I'm trying to be a wise old man who has all the answers. I do not have all the answers. I made the mistakes I am describing right here in full. So clearly I did not have them, but I have something you do not yet have, which is the view from this end of things. And the view from here is different than you expect. When you are in your 30s and 40s and 50s, life feels urgent in a particular way. Careers feel urgent. Money feels urgent. Building and achieving and proving yourself feels urgent. And those things are not unimportant. Do not hear me saying they are unimportant. You need to work. You need to build. You need to take responsibility for your life and the lives of the people who depend on you. But here is what I did not understand until it was too late. None of those things will comfort you at the end. Not the career, not the house, not the accomplishments you can list on a page. What you will think about in the quiet hours is the people, the moments. Whether you were actually present for the life you were supposedly living. I spent so many years building a life that I forgot to live inside it with the person I had chosen. And I want you to understand something about time. When you are young, time feels elastic. It feels like it bends toward you, like there is always more of it somewhere ahead. Next year we will do this. In a few years we will go there. When things calm down, we will have those conversations. The future feels like a large room with plenty of space. It is not. The room is smaller than it looks, and the door closes faster than you think. The things you keep putting off, the trip, the conversation, the Sunday afternoon where you do nothing but sit with the person you love and ask them something real. Those things have an expiration date that you cannot see from where you are standing. And one day you will look up and realize that the window has closed, and you did not go through it when you had the chance. I want to talk to you directly about something else, and that is the quiet erosion of yourself that happens when you stop growing. When you stop asking questions about your own life. When you stop being honest with yourself about what you are doing and why. I think for a long time I was not fully honest with myself. I told myself a story about my marriage that made me comfortable and did not require me to look closely at the parts that were not working. I told myself that comfort was the goal, that stability was love, that providing was enough. I told myself those things not because they were true, but because they let me continue doing what I was doing without examining it. That kind of self-deception is very common. It is probably more common than the other kind. And it costs you, over time, in ways that are hard to name, until suddenly you are holding your dying wife's hand, and she is telling you the truth about your marriage, and you realize you have been telling yourself a story that was only partially true for most of your adult life. Self-honesty is not comfortable. Asking yourself whether you are actually showing up in the relationships that matter to you, whether you are present or just physically occupying space, whether the person you love actually feels known by you. Those questions are uncomfortable. They require something. They require you to possibly change something, to do something differently, to be inconvenienced by another person's needs. But they are the questions that matter. They are the questions I should have been asking myself in my 40s and 50s, when there was still time to do something with the answers. Be someone who asks those questions. Be someone who grows, not just professionally but as a person, in your capacity to be present, to be curious, to be emotionally available to the people who have chosen to walk through life with you. That kind of growth is quieter than the kind you can post about, but it is the kind that determines the actual texture of your life. Take care of yourself. I mean genuinely take care of yourself, not as a performance, but as a practice. Know what you value, know what you need. Know who you are outside of your roles and your responsibilities. Because a person who knows themselves is a better partner, a better parent, a better friend. You cannot offer someone your full presence if you have never examined what your presence actually contains. And love the people in your life actively, not passively, not by assumption, not by showing up in the room and expecting that to be sufficient. Ask them what they dream about. Remember what they told you last month and ask them how it went. Show up to the pottery class. Go to Canada while you still can. Do not wait for the grand gesture. The grand gesture almost never comes, and even when it does, it cannot make up for years of small absences. It is the small things done consistently with real attention that build a life together. It is the Tuesday evenings and the ordinary Sunday mornings and the unremarkable conversations where you ask a question you did not have to ask and listen to the answer all the way to the end. That is where love lives. In the ordinary and the small and the sustained. I missed too much of that, and I cannot get it back. Ruth deserved better. Not a different husband necessarily, did not wish for that. She told me near the end that she was glad it had been me. That even with everything, she was glad. I do not know entirely what to do with that. It moves me. It also makes the grief heavier, somehow, not lighter. She was a good woman. She was a patient woman. She carried more than I knew and said less about it than she should have had to. She found joy where she could find it and built a life for herself inside the life we had built together. And she never made me feel small for not being more. That generosity is something I think about often. I think it was one of her great qualities and also, in some ways, one of the things that allowed me to stay comfortable when I should have been growing. If you love someone, do not make them carry the weight of your absence quietly. Do not let them adapt to your limitations until they stop expecting anything else. Ask more of yourself. Not perfectly. No one does this perfectly. But more. Pay more attention. Show more curiosity. Make more room. You have the time I did not know I was spending. Use it. I am 90 years old, and most of my life is behind me now. I have my children and my grandchildren and my 4 great-grandchildren, and they bring me real joy. I have memories that are good, a life that had meaning in it, a marriage that lasted 63 years with a woman who, I believe, loved me until the end. But I also have this weight, this understanding that I came to too late. I hope you come to yours in time. If something in what I have said today stayed with you, I hope you carry it into the next conversation you have with someone you love. Not as a lecture to give them, just as a reminder to yourself to be there, to be genuinely, curiously, attentively there. That is all I have. That is the whole of it. My name is David Larry. I am 90 years old, and I'm still learning what it means to love someone well. Before I go, I want to say something to you directly. If this story touched something in you, if any part of what I shared today reminded you of someone you love, or made you think about how you have been showing up in your own life, then please do not let that feeling pass quietly. Let it mean something. Let it move you towards someone. And if you feel this story is worth sharing, I would be grateful if you passed it along. Someone in your life might need to hear it. A friend, a sibling, a partner. You never know whose heart is ready for something like this. If you are new here, I would love for you to stay. Subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell notification so you are the first to know whenever a new story is shared. Leave a like if this meant something to you. And please, leave a comment below. I read everyone. I have one simple question for you today. Where in the world are you watching from? Tell me your country in the comments. It would mean a great deal to this old man to know who is out there listening. Thank you. Truly.